Okay, if you're watching this video, it's because you're going to be doing the lab at home. And what we're going to be doing is using the lab report in GoFormative. What we want to do right there with this video is just show you how to work the phet. So when you come into the phet, you'll be in the lab version of the phet. And you'll see that it's all set up here with the cannon right here and all these controls over here. And there's a little pad right here. First thing I want to tell you is ignore this pad. You can play with it if you want to like predict where things are going to go. But the reality is the pad will not be a good measuring tool. So I just throw it over here. I don't think our guy right here moves, so you can leave that too. All right, so what do we see? We have a couple of things. We can go in and out right here, so we can get closer or we can get farther. Okay, so that's those things. We have all these set here. You can decide what you want to shoot, but we're going to shoot cannonballs right now. And then we're going to leave all these other things alone here until the very end. So please don't go about moving any of these things. All right, the first thing that the lab will ask you to do is to keep the angle at 30 and change the velocity. What does that mean? Well, we can get a little closer here so we can see. But as we move the cannon up and down, we can see the angle right here in this little tiny little. And so that's the angle that we're going to be shooting at. And so they told us to set it for 30. So I'll set it for 30. And then you can see right here, these are the velocities. So we can move the velocity up and down. That's the initial velocity that we're going to shoot it at. And so the first part of the experiment tells us to keep it at 10 and keep it at 30 and then move it from 10 to 12 to 14 to 16 and then move the angle up. So how do we go about finding the range or the distance, because that's what they asked us to find. So what you'll do is you'll set it for 30, you'll hit 10, and then you'll hit this to shoot your cannon. And you can see like this kind of gives you the distance, but you never really know if you got it in the right spot or not. So there's really, I wanted to make sure that you know that there's an more accurate way to do distance. Grab this little thing right here and see how this gives us time, range, and height. And so if we put the little crosshairs on the ball, it'll actually light up yellow and it'll tell us the range exactly. And so that's why we want to use this little measuring device to do our measuring. So we'll take we've shot it at 30 at 10, and we'll put the distance in, and that distance is 8.66, I think is what it says right there. All right, so then we'll move it up to 12, and we'll shoot it again. All right, and we can grab our little range finder right here, have it light up on the yellow right there, and we can write down the range. All right, so that will be what your experiment will be like for, I think it's like question number 3. You'll do 30, and then you'll move this up to 45. And you'll start all over again. You'll change the velocity back down to 10. If you want to get rid of all these things, you can clear, right? And then we'll do it again for 45, and then we'll do it again for 60. So that's the first part of the experiment. And then the second part of the experiment has you hold the velocity steady while you're changing this. And so you'll do the same thing with that. Right, the only other things is later on in the experiment, they ask us to do a couple things like play around with it. So what they're saying is, does angle make a difference? Well, I think hopefully by now you'll have seen whether or not angle makes a difference. Does initial speed make a difference? And then they say, does mass make a difference? Because then once you're playing with it at the very end, you can say, well, does mass change the way that we see the ball going? So you can move it back and forth to figure out if that changes anything and if diameter changes anything. Okay, and so you can move diameter. And if you ever want to have some fun, well, you can throw whatever you want. And so I think there's like a piano. So you can shoot a piano if you want. And play around with this. So that's just a way to get through this real quickly. If we'll throw in some more videos if there's more confusing things for you guys later.